Welcome to the Hope Natural Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Erin, your host. On this show, we discuss all things health, hormones, and happiness with a little side of this thing called life. Dr. Emily Splichal, functional podiatrist and human movement specialist, is the founder of EBFA Global, author of Barefoot Strong, and CEO/founder of Naboso. With over 23 years in the fitness industry, Dr. Emily has dedicated her medical career towards studying postural alignment and human movement as it relates to barefoot science, foot to core integration, and sensory integration. This is going to be such a great topic, all about our feet, how our feet can tell us a lot about our health. I am so excited for this conversation to dive more into our feet and how it relates to our health. So welcome to the show, Dr. Emily.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Yay! Well, before we dive into the nitty-gritty about our feet and how that matters to our health, I want to learn more about your background, how 23 years in the fitness industry led you to where you are today.
Absolutely. So what's important is that I am a functional podiatrist, which is different than conventional podiatry. I look at the body from a very integrated approach, and I actually consider myself more of a movement specialist than just a podiatrist. And a lot of that stems from my background. I was a competitive gymnast, so very much into movement. Then when I started in the fitness industry, I was training, teaching classes, started getting hurt and knew that I wanted to seek higher education. But again, my passion with fitness was movement. So as I started going through podiatry school, I was still training and still within the fitness industry. So I could immediately apply what I was learning and knew that they were not telling me the whole story, that there was more to the feet than just the feet. And that's actually what led me to then go back to school after I finished my podiatry and get my master's in human movement. And that connected really this fitness podiatry, and then the connector was my master's in human movement.
Oh, awesome. How interesting how things fall into place, right?
Yes, the zig and the zag led somewhere.
Yeah. So big question. Why does foot health matter? I don't really think about my feet as a big component to my health. So why do our feet matter?
So our feet is our body's foundation. If you think about it, when we stand, when we walk, the only contact point between the body and the ground is our feet. So your foot influences the rest of your body, both mechanically and sensorily. And the mechanical part, I think, is easier for people to understand. This is where you could imagine that if our feet are falling in, we have collapsing arches, that there's going to be influence into our legs, our knees, our hips, our pelvis. Similarly, from a sensory muscular side, if our foot muscles are weak, it will influence our abs, so our deep core muscles, and our hips and our glutes. So everything is based off of that foundation, that contact point, and then that affects how we stand, how we walk, how we balance. If we want to jump, run, transfer energy, all of that is influenced by our foundation.
So where do we start to go wrong with our foundation?
The first one, I think, is a total lack of awareness of it.
Yeah.
Probably the first step, that it is underappreciated. A lot of that has to do with an underappreciation in other medical specialties. It's actually really interesting that medical doctors are taught maybe a couple hours of the feet, and there's nothing more about it. So the depth of what they understand is not there. I think modern footwear is another reason that we are very much disconnected from our feet. And sometimes culturally, people will think of the feet as very dirty, so they want to cover them up. They don't touch them. They don't look at them, acknowledge them. So those are probably some of the biggest reasons why there is a lack of awareness and a disconnect, is all of that essentially coming together.
Yeah, and I would agree. I'm in naturopathic school, and we learned about the feet, but more so about the pressure points, or the regions of the foot can tell you a lot about your health, and acupressure and puncture, to the areas of the feet. So what are some common misconceptions about foot health that you encounter?
So one is probably a no pain, no gain. I mean, that's not just in the feet, but that's everywhere. Is people will sometimes think that the foot talking to them is not necessarily an important or a big signal. And then they just keep pushing through it. They keep stressing the foot, and then they get a full blown out plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis, some sort of itis that is very difficult to get through. And a lot of that is because we use and abuse our feet every single day. So it's very hard to incorporate recovery into our feet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you get very persistent for months, sometimes years, people will have heel pain. Another one is that there's a normalization to foot issues, that people just think it's normal to have an ache and pain in the foot. And then another one would go back to the lack of awareness, but this one I'm going to talk about specifically the big toe, is that people don't understand the power behind a joint such as the big toe, and that it can actually influence how we walk and the rest of the body. So oftentimes I will find that people have low back pain, SI joint pain, something higher up, and no one ever looks at their big toe. And it's actually the lack of range of motion in the big toe that's affecting how they walk, that's affecting the low back pain and the SI joint pain. So what I've learned just from mentors is that if you have a part of the body, a joint, maybe some tissue that is talking to you, you have an itis or pain, typically the cause is not where you have the pain. You have to look elsewhere in the body.
And maybe the big toe is one of those places, right?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Yeah. That little piggy, right? So if we have such a lack of awareness around foot health, where do you recommend someone start with becoming more aware of their feet?
So I actually have 3 pillars to healthy feet, and they are built around little daily habits that we can do every day to connect to our feet and to start to create the priority of foot health. And that's going to be foot awareness, foot strength, and foot recovery. And these are just little simple habits. You could actually do them all in conjunction with each other. You could do it first thing in the morning when you wake up. But the way that I think about them is foot activation. You have to spend at least 30 minutes a day totally barefoot. And that's not a lot of time. So that could even be just the first 30 minutes when you wake up in the morning. Just, get ready without your shoes on. Get ready without house shoes or house slippers on to stimulate the nerves in the bottom of the feet. You could actually add on to that and do earthing. Earthing is when you go outside on the grass, on the dirt, totally barefoot, and you're connecting to the natural environment. Actually, research has shown if you do 15 minutes of earthing a day, you can actually increase circulation to your feet. It supports the rhythm of your circadian rhythm. So it's a really good longevity hack is to do earthing. So that's the first one. Second one is strength. That is waking up all of the muscles in the bottom of the feet. There's actually 26 muscles in the bottom of your feet, and they are connected to your deep core muscles. So there's a really easy exercise that will integrate them. I can totally teach you that if you want. And then the third one is going to be recovery. And for that, I suggest standing on a ball or something for 5 minutes a day, morning and evening, is to release your feet. So just simply doing that, just starting there, being barefoot 30 minutes, going outside even for a few minutes on the grass and on the dirt, doing something to wake up your foot muscles, and then to massage and release some muscles in the morning and in the evening. Those habits will start to prioritize your foot health.
Oh, those are great. Would a pulsed electromagnetic frequency mat suffice for earthing or grounding?
It can. So there's still something really special about being truly outside and just the healing properties of everything else that encompasses that, because then you're getting sunlight. Sunlight and photobiomodulation is so important. You get to feel the texture of the grass and the dirt. So yes, but I still believe in truly being outside.
Awesome. I know that like our core is foundation, but I didn't really put the connection between our core and our feet. Can you dive a little bit more into that?
Yeah, so there's actually fascial lines, so connective tissue lines that connect muscle groups throughout our body. And there's this one fascial line that runs from the bottom of your feet into your pelvic floor, into your diaphragm, up your neck, into your tongue. So you can actually connect the tips of your toes to your tongue. And this is fascial. There's actually a muscle synergy that is demonstrated in the brain as well, that the muscle of your big toe connects to the muscles of your posterior pelvic floor, which is your levator ani. And all of that makes sense when you think of standing up and walking, that your foot is the only contact point between the body and the ground, and your center of gravity is your core. So when you stand and when you walk, you want your base of support and your center of mass to be connected, right? That's how you control movement. That is fascially. So every time you push your toes into the ground, you push your toes down, that activates this fascial line. I will actually teach people when they push their toes down and they put their tongue to their palate, that will essentially activate that posterior pelvic floor as well, and this fascial line.
The body truly is connected.
Yes.
What, one more thing about, the barefoot in the morning. So can you talk a little bit more, not necessarily just, the grounding. I get the grounding, like we're getting the earth's frequency and all of that, but why is it important to walk barefoot for 30 minutes a day? I know that there's a lot, and you teach a lot about barefoot health, and even, we're going to dive into that a little bit, but why is that so important?
So there are thousands of nerves in the bottom of the feet, and these nerves, think of them kind of like your hand in a sense, like your eyes. So the skin in the bottom of the feet with the nerves is designed to read the surfaces that you stand and walk on. And what that means is that as you take a step, as you feel and interact with the surface, it is reading the surface to then adjust, to stimulate muscles, to support your balance, to transfer energy. So just like we were to read a book or read a horizon or kind of the environment that we're on, your foot is designed to read the surface as you walk on it. And that's really important to how we control dynamic movement. This is taken away when you are in shoes. So the more cushion that you put in shoes, the more that you damp and you take away the ability for the nervous system to read the surface that you're walking on.
Okay. I get it. Is that go kind of in line with a lot of athletes that work out and lift heavy weights barefoot?
Absolutely, 100%. They are trying to optimize their full range of motion.
Okay.
They're trying to engage those muscles better. They can activate their digits better. So really, to harness your full strength, you have to use the foot. And I teach athletes this all the time, that is oftentimes the 1% advantage that they get is really utilizing every aspect of their body, including their feet.
I love that. So how bad are shoes?
So it depends on the shoe, and not all shoes are created the same. Not all feet are the same. So what that means is, as much as I'm an advocate of minimal barefoot natural footwear, with most people associate that with me and my profession, I also know that there's a time and place for more supportive shoes. There's a time and place for orthotics. There's a time and place for forefoot rockers, which is a feature of shoes that I actually really like. And it'll be a rocker that is built in the shoe to allow you to walk and take long steps, which, remember the big toe that I spoke about earlier? If people have arthritis or limited range of motion in that big toe, using a shoe with a rocker is actually a way to still optimize how you walk, despite having that lack of range of motion. So there's a way that you can understand shoes to help the system achieve your optimal movement if you don't have that range of motion. And that's the power of footwear.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So what, besides, are there any more tips that you can give for someone that's trying to improve their foot health now that this has become aware to them, besides those three core practices that you mentioned a little bit ago?
So the third one or the fourth one that I would add, so like a bonus, would be the power of single leg stability. So part of optimal movement, I call it movement longevity. So to maintain movement well into your older years is you have to have really good stability. And that's not just from a fall reduction perspective. To have really good balance and stability is actually critical to walking fast. And fast walking, or really walking speed, is actually an indicator of morbidity and mortality. Some people will actually refer to it as the sixth vital sign. So as you age, typically people start to slow their walking speed. As walking speed slows, you can see an increase in morbidity and mortality. So you want to, one of these signs you want to look at or goals you want to achieve for longevity is, what do I need to do to maintain optimal walking speed? And that is single leg stability is one of those. And why single leg stability is important is it's necessary to take a long step. You cannot walk fast without long steps. To take a long step, you have to have good balance. So it's very much tied into that. So I recommend that people do just a couple minutes of balance exercises every day. You can brush your teeth balancing on one leg. You could do the dishes on one leg. You could wait for your coffee on one leg. So try to sneak in these single leg exercises in your day. And just for the listeners, the marker that you want to go after is a 10-second balance. So can you stand on one leg for 10 seconds? If you can't, that theoretically is a predictor of fall risk.
Who would have thunk? And that's so easy. Nothing about that is, you don't have to take a class for that. Just stand on one foot. Everybody do it now, unless you're driving. So I'd be super curious what a day in the life of Dr. Emily, a podiatrist, looks like. Like how, I know you recommend 30 minutes a day of barefoot. Do you have shoes on right now? I'm super curious.
No, I do not.
Okay, I figured as much. So what does a day in a life look like for you as far as, I mean, are you wearing shoes maybe 30 minutes a day and barefoot the rest of the day? I'd be curious to hear your practices.
Absolutely. So every morning I do release my feet. I release my feet when I brush my teeth. And I know this has nothing to do with feet, but I do it with red light. So I'm very much into photobiomodulation as well. So every morning when I get ready, I do 15 minutes of red light while I'm brushing my teeth, etc., and releasing my feet. So that's an important part of it. I am in minimal shoes. Obviously, I'm in Arizona, as I know you are. So I wear sandals and flats just because it's so hot. And then whenever I get home or to my office, I'm always barefoot. Whenever I lift, so I will work out 3 to 4 times a week lifting weights. And when I lift weights, I will always be barefoot lifting weights. I am wearing minimal shoes if I am at the gym. And then as soon as I start lifting, I take my shoes off. I will then, when I get home at the end of the day, I will release my feet again. And then at Naboso, we actually have these recovery socks that are socks that have little textures on the inside so that I can stimulate the nerves and the muscles in the bottom of the feet. So I will walk around in those recovery socks.
So you hinted at it and we were going to talk about it. So this is perfect. What is Naboso?
Yes. So Naboso is a sensory product line that I launched 5 years ago, and it is based around texture. I have one of our products just so those on the video can see that there's little tiny pyramids on this product. Those pyramids are stimulating a very specific nerve in the bottom of the feet. It's actually the Braille nerve. So when your fingers read Braille, it's stimulating a very specific nerve. We stimulate that same nerve in the feet. And what that does is that it's going to wake up the nerves, it's going to stimulate the muscles, it increases circulation, and it is a great form of recovery. So that is through Naboso on our neural balls. This is actually a ball that splits into 2 pieces, so you can release your feet on it. We have socks, insoles, mats, flooring, release tools. I have a neuro stick here. So there's many different products that we essentially sneak that texture on. And then it is powerful to your nervous system. And that's really what we're going after, is your nervous system.
When you talked about working out with your with barefoot. Is it completely barefoot or are socks okay?
So truly, my passion is around being barefoot. And the reason is that socks is still a layer between your nerves and the surface. Now, if you have the Naboso socks on, which have the texture on the inside, you are getting more neurostimulation than just having a normal sock that is smooth or has no texture. But I really encourage people to get completely barefoot if they can. I do it at my gym where I'm the only person who's barefoot, but that's okay because I just go with it. Because it is really, really important to feel and to get the full digit articulation. And I cannot emphasize enough how important our toes are to foot function, to spread, to activate, to splay, to grip. You need to get those toes feeling and moving for optimal function and strength.
I'm sure someone's thinking, like I just kind of thought, how do you deal with dirty feet? Like if you're in a public place and you're working out, like do you go into the bathroom and wash your feet or do you carry wipes with you? Like how do you combat the sanitary purpose of going barefoot a lot?
Yeah, so obviously I'm cleaning my feet, and when I'm out on like the street, sidewalk, grocery store, like all of that, I'm not barefoot. I'm just barefoot when I'm lifting. But I get it because people often will associate feet with dirty.
Yep.
Right. And a lot of my patients, or not a lot, but I'm open for my services to the truly barefoot community, which is a population of people who literally will never wear shoes.
Yeah.
And they will legally advocate for that and say, because of my medical condition, not just in the feet, but the whole body, they choose to never wear shoes. They'll walk around New York City completely barefoot, and that is their decision. They like that for their body, their health, their lifestyle. And I support them. I see them as patients. And sometimes I'll advocate for them by writing like a medical letter or whatnot. I don't do that. I will work out barefoot. But what I will tell people is that if you are smart about where you walk, if you clean your feet regularly, shoes are probably dirtier than feet that are barefoot walking around.
True.
Right? And I think just always looking, and sometimes people at the gym will say, oh, but if you drop a plate on your foot, there's an inherent awareness when you are barefoot. So when I work out barefoot, I am very cognizant of where I place my feet. Obviously, I'm lifting the weights that I'm going to be lifting cautiously because I know I'm barefoot, right? So what's actually interesting is research has shown that people who trail run barefoot, so totally barefoot, actually have increased memory recall because of the forced presence that moving barefoot does, right? Because you have to be really aware of where your foot placement is.
Yeah.
That has a cognitive memory benefit. So there's other benefits to being barefoot than just foot strength. There's brain protective benefits as well.
That's amazing. Our feet are amazing. Our body's amazing. What did I miss that you wanted to touch more on when it comes to either postural alignment, foot health, barefoot, Naboso?
So one thing I would say is that feet are really a gateway to understand how to move efficiently. And just this concept of movement efficiency, no one thinks about it. Movement accuracy. Really, I'm describing a grace in our movement. That's what I want all the listeners to think about is, I should be walking kind of like I'm floating, that there's this effortlessness, there's this lightness. And what allows you to be light and graceful in your movement, even walking across the room to go to the bathroom, you should have a lightness in the way that you move. That's based off of fascia, which is based off of your nervous system, which connects to your feet, which connects to your deep core pelvic floor. And that's ultimately how we were designed to move. A lot of musculoskeletal pain, low back pain, knee pain, SI, foot pain is really based off people just being really passive and subjective to gravity, that we're like sitting in our bodies in gravity. And there's actually an oppositional tone that you should be having in your fascia. And that's what I try to instill as well. So maybe that's a little nugget of curiosity I can instill in the listeners to explore more about their feet, fascia, pelvic floor, diaphragm, sensory brain. It's an awesome area.
Oh, yeah. And you started that just by letting us know that awareness comes first. So I bet everybody now is going to, hopefully, if they listen to this, is going to start paying attention to their feet and becoming aware. I mean, that's really, like for everything in life, is just becoming aware. We don't know what we don't know, and it is an appendage, we think, but it's so important for our health. So I've truly enjoyed this conversation. We'll wrap it up with one question that I ask all of my guests. What would be your best or favorite health tip that you can share with the listeners?
So I already mentioned this, but release your feet every day, at least 5 minutes. Just stand on a Neuro ball, on a lacrosse ball, on the handle of a weight, on a rolling pin. Find something, right? A dog toy. So find something that you can stand on and release your feet every single day, at least 5 minutes. Trust me. The saying of an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Here, releasing your feet every day will keep the podiatrist away. So,
I love that. And you do it, do you recommend more in the morning or the night or both?
Both.
Both. Okay. That's what I thought. Starting when you wake up, like you said, when you brush your teeth, and then towards the end of the day before bed, correct?
When you brush your teeth again, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Brush your teeth. Just have your little ball right there. And we'll make sure, and people can order those products that you mentioned on your website, the Naboso?
Absolutely, at Naboso. Yep, Naboso.com.
Perfect. So we will make sure to include that in the show notes. And this has been a great conversation. So thank you so much for being here, Dr. Emily.
Of course. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.